Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Tech Gig webinar, our endeavor to empower techies. We believe that sharing of knowledge is the key of enhancing our performances and for our growth as professionals. With this principle in mind, Tech Gig has initiated a series of webinars conducted by industry experts to give crisp insight of various domains. Today's session is first in the Usability in UI series, and topic for today's webinar is Mobile UI and Usability Guide. We are delighted to have Ms. Shamla Prayaga, User Experience Evangelist, with us today. Shamla is a user experience evangelist having nearly 12 years of professional IT experience in designing UI for RIA, websites, SaaS apps, and mobile apps. Presently, she is working with Pramati Technologies, Hyderabad as a principal engineer UX. She has worked on multiple domains like banking and finance, travel and hospitality, e-commerce, and mobile commerce and media. She has a working experience with Agile methodology for software development. Gentlemen, this presentation will continue for next 45 minutes and we will take your questions after the presentation. In the meanwhile, you can post your queries through the chat pane available in the webinar software. Without further ado, I introduce you to our guest speaker, Ms. Shamla.
Hello?
Hello? Yeah. Please open your PPT.
Yeah, so shall I start?
Yeah, please.
Okay. So, good afternoon everyone. Today I'll be talking about mobile UI and usability guide. So basically, we have multiple devices, multiple platforms to work on. So unlike, website or desktop, we have a lot of challenges involved, especially when we have to design something for the mobile. So today's topic will discuss all the challenges and some guidelines related to the usability. The agenda today is we'll first talk about some basic platforms about iOS, Android, BlackBerry, Symbian, and Windows Mobile. Then we'll see what are the challenges involved when we have to design mobile applications. Next, we'll see some basic UI designing principles, and then some guidelines, and then we'll see some best practices. So iOS is basically iPhone and Android, iPhone and iPad. So we have a lot of history behind this. First, iPhone started with 3G, and then it came to like 4, and now we have iPhone 4G, 4S, which is basically the Siri operating system. So iPhone basically have the 2G and 3G basically had 20 by 480 pixel resolution, and the pixels per inch was 163. We have iPhone 4S, which basically have 960 by 640 pixels, and 326 is the pixels per inch. So the interaction model for iPhone is basically touchscreen. So I'm trying to explain the different type of devices which we have, and then the interaction models and the resolution, so that it becomes easy for us to understand what exactly are the challenges. When we talk about touchscreens, we have multi-touchscreen in iPhone. So some of the touchscreens are tap, and then double tap. We have flick, we have pinch, spread, trace and tap, trace, and then drag. So these are some gestures which we have basically for touchscreens. So this is not only for iPhone, this also applies for other touchscreens. Now coming to the iPad. iPad basically have a resolution of 1024 by 768 pixels with 132 ppi, and the interaction again is touchscreen. And the gestures, again we have like click and drag, tap. Then we have something like expanding and all, and slide. Now coming to the Android mobiles, we have a lot of Android devices these days. So basically we have two operating systems for Android. So one is Honeycomb and other is Gingerbread. So basically the Honeycomb basically works on the tablet devices and Gingerbread is the old one. So these are some dimensions and some devices which we have. We have a lot of devices, but I am not able to cover all of them, so I just took a couple of them. So these are some devices, their dimensions and PPIs, and their interaction model. So HTC Dream again, this was the first mobile launched by Android, Google. So you can have a look at all the dimensions and the PPIs. Then we have Android tablets. So we have a lot of Android tablets available in the market these days, but basically Motorola Zoom and Samsung Galaxy Tab is what is the upcoming ones and the most sold. So Motorola Zoom again have a dimension of 1280 by 800 pixels. We don't have the PPI for this. I mean, I don't have the information of that. The interaction is touchscreen. Dimension for Samsung is 1280 by 800 pixels and interaction method is touchscreen. Now we have BlackBerry. The operating system is BlackBerry. And these are some BlackBerry devices which we have with various dimensions from 240 to 260, 320 by 240, 480 by 360, and so on. Some have touch screen, some have trackball, some have trackpad. Then we have BlackBerry tablets, which have a dimension of 1024 by 600, and interaction is touchscreen. And we have Windows Mobile, which have various dimensions. Most of them are touchscreen. We have 320 by 480, 480 by 800, 240 by 320. Then Symbian. So most of the Nokia devices which we see runs on the Symbian operating system. This is the most used operating system. So Nokia have dimensions ranging from 320 to 240 to 640 to 360. Now let's see some of the challenges involved in mobile application designing. So first is diversified platforms and devices. So as we've seen, we have so many different platforms: iPhone, Android, BlackBerry, Symbian, and we also have Palm 3 and all, which I haven't covered. So there are so many different devices and platforms. So when we have to design for so many screens, the same thing for so many multiple platforms and devices, so that is the biggest challenge which we have to face. The second thing is diversified screen size and display resolution. So as I covered in my initial screens, we have a lot of devices ranging from 240 to 360 and then 1024 to 768. So we have so many different resolutions, screen size, and resolutions are also different. Some have 166, some have 240 ppi. So we also have to take care of those resolutions when we are designing something. Third is diversified screen size and display resolution. Next is the operating system. As you've seen, we have Android, BlackBerry, Symbian, Palm 3, Windows. So we have so many operating systems. Again, in each devices we have different. So now, like we have iPhone. So iPhone again has Siri operating system, and earlier was iPhone 3G and all. So Symbian have one operating system, and as I told you, like for the Android thing also Gingerbread, Honeycomb. So we have so many different operating systems available nowadays. So understanding them and designing for them is really a big challenge. Then limited memory. Everyone knows like mobile have a very limited memory, and we basically use external memory cards. So when we have to design something for a mobile device, so obviously this becomes a very big challenge because we can't copy everything we have in a website or a desktop application because memory is the biggest challenge for us. Next is the interaction. As we've seen, we have touch screen and we also have the pen these days. We have trackballs and trackpads. A lot of things are there. So when we have to design something for these many gestures, these many interactions, so obviously it becomes a challenge because if you compare it with a desktop application or a website or something, basically we just have a mouse, or if we are using a laptop, we just have the trackball. But the basic thing is we have a pointer through which we can actually click on the interaction and move further. But for mobile, we have so many different interactions. So obviously, when we have to design, this becomes the biggest challenge. Suppose I have an image. If I have to zoom, so in a touch screen, I can actually click and expand it and zoom. If I have to do the same thing using a trackball, so that becomes a challenge. So again, I have to click on it, and there should be an interaction like zoom, something like that, so that I can zoom it. So obviously, there are a lot of challenges like this. The next is usage context. So what happens is when we have to design something for a mobile, so obviously there may be different context of usage. The users might be using it in a bus, train, tram, public places, or there can be multiple things. I mean, there's some emergency and the person has to use the device, or probably he's sitting idle and he want to, just do it for passing his time. Or there can be multiple contexts for mobile usage. So that is again one challenge which we face, and we have to take care of that also when we are designing, because when we say context, so obviously there may be context when there's really situation like an emergency, or when we suppose, let's say we have to have a video conferencing via mobile due to some unexpected situation, we don't have a laptop device. So that again is one of the challenges. So obviously there are different contexts, and then the usage, the user needs. So someone might be looking for a app wherein they can actually see some news. Someone might be looking for GPS or geo connection for locations to find some ATM or some location. Some users might basically use it for social networking, and some might be interested in looking for some recipes.
Hello. Sorry for interrupting. We're getting feedback from attendees. Like your voice is not very clear. So can you please be a little closer to the mic?
Yeah, sure.
Sure. Thanks.
Is it okay now?
Now.
Yeah. So hello.
Yeah, please go ahead. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So I was talking about diversified user needs. So there are multiple users. Multiple users have their different needs, and when we are using a mobile app, so suppose someone want to use it for browsing some news or for emails, or someone might be using it for recipes. Someone might be looking for some banking thing. Someone might use it for social networking. Some users might be looking for some geolocations or ATM locators kind of thing. So the user needs is also different when it comes to mobile device. So obviously, as compared to a desktop, mobile has a lot of challenges in this context also, because a banking app being used in a desktop is totally different. We can have a lot of things, and because the screen size is bigger, it becomes easy for the user to actually see the things, interact, click on them, and work on it. But when it comes to a mobile device, so we cannot have the complete thing, the complete banking app mocked in a mobile device, because it becomes a little challenge for them to actually interact with the device. So this is again a challenge. So we have to take care of that part as well. Then some of the principles. So as I told you, some challenges which we have. So one of the challenges, as I mentioned, is the context of use. So I mean, basically what happens is for a desktop or a laptop, we'll be using it in a single place. Laptop probably we can use when we are traveling or something, but desktop basically we use from office. So what happens is when we have to use mobile, so it's more like we are traveling most of the time. We are using in situations when there is the internet connection is not really fast. So because we're gonna at a fixed place, obviously internet connection is interrupted, and there are a lot of other challenges involved. Maybe the light is not really proper. You are in tunnel, near the tunnel or something. So, you know, a lot of things are there. So the contrast also you have to take care of. The functionalities also you have to take care of. A lot of things are there. So the first principle of mobile design is learnability, which is ease of use. So, you know, learnability is obviously the same principles is there for desktop application also. So learnability is like how easy is your application to use right from the beginning. So suppose I have a login screen. So obviously, I mean, the user, when the user sees the login screen, they'll understand like, okay, I can click on it and I can actually put my username and password, and then I can click login and it takes me. So that is intuitiveness, that is the kind of learnability. So they don't have to again and again think like, how exactly do we do that? Then the amount of functionality presented to the user should be limited to exactly what the user requires. In a mobile, this is again very important for us. So I just took one of the screens from Chase. So they have very limited functionality in their main screen. They have a log on, then a contact us, and find ATM. So basically, this is what is the learnability thing. So when the user clicks on this app again, they know what exactly they need to do when they go to the find ATM. So they don't have to again and again rethink on this. Because we have to also understand one thing, like not everyone using a mobile device will be a technology freak, and the expertise level of all the users may vary. So that is again the big challenge which we have. So obviously we can't expect like because I'm able to use a mobile app easily, so that does not mean like everyone will be able to use it in the same way or in the same expertise. So that again we have to take care of. Second is efficiency. So the number of steps which is required to complete a task, it should be less. So if it is less, obviously it is efficient. So if I have to actually do a banking thing, I click on login because that is required. Then I go to the transactions, or the page is there where I should have an option of, okay, I have to make funds transfers. So there should be an option rather than first clicking on banking and then, you know, having some option like, okay, now you have to do fund transfer. So, you know, if we can reduce the steps from 3 to 1 or 3 to 2, that again makes a lot of difference in a mobile config. Then key tasks should be made as efficient as possible. The third thing is memorability. So as I told you, learnability and memorability is very close to each other. It is the way the user interact with the device or the application and how easy is it for the user to learn it. So first, things like ATM location or finding a recipe or checking mails. So because these are some frequent kind of tasks which a user will be using, so it should be very easy for them to remember, and the interaction should be such that they know like, okay, where to click, how to click, when to click. Then error recovery, because it is a mobile context, chances of errors are more. First, we have to make sure that the user should not be given a chance to make any mistakes. But obviously, because users are there, they tend to make mistakes. We can't avoid that. So if mistakes are made, we should have an interface which should give them a chance to rectify the errors. Next is, user should be informed of error. So suppose if the user has done a mistake, so they should be given a prompt message like, you know, you did some error and probably you should rectify it. And then they should also be given attempts to make the, whatever mistakes they have done, they should be given a chance to actually rectify that thing. Next is simplicity. The design should be very simple. So usually tasks should be easy and less common tasks should be possible. Avoid necessary functionalities. Keep the visual design and layout uncluttered. Display information in a way that makes effective use of the small screen. The user should be able to find all needed functions without getting tangled in secondary issues. Next is graphics and displays layout should be uncluttered, crisp and plain. Then text and font should be clear and comfortable to read. And displays should show the most important information clearly rather than squeezing in as much data as possible. Interaction, display text, graphics, sound should be consistent and harmonious. I've seen a couple of apps, they actually have started using agreements and read our privacy policy kind of things in a website, in a mobile device. So see, basically the challenge here is because the screen size is really very small, it becomes very difficult for the user to read on this small screen. So that is one big challenge. So obviously when we have to design something for a mobile, so we have to keep it as simple as possible. We cannot say like, because I have to copy the complete thing, suppose the airline ticket booking I have to do. So because the user books the ticket, they should know our privacy policy, they should know our agreements and all. So we can't actually have them read all these things, and we can't expect the user to do that, especially in a mobile context, because they will not do that. Users will get annoyed when they see these kind of things. When they see like in a small device, I have a long 500 words of agreement which I have to read before I actually book the ticket. So why will a user come to a mobile application? Because the context is different, so obviously we can't expect them to do that. Then mapping. What the user expects to happen when they interact with the interface is exactly what should happen. Sometimes I've seen some apps where a lot of mismatches there and a lot of problems occur. Even if something is processing, so we should get a message like, okay, uploading or processing, so that user understands like, okay, something is happening at the back end, rather than just keeping the screen idle. So the user will be all blank, like what exactly is happening. So that again is important. And visibility. Important information should be the most visible and less important should be less visible. Just because we have to create an app does not mean we can have all the links together in the mobile. So example, let's say I have a ticket booking, airline booking app. So obviously the most important task for an airline would be to book the ticket. It can be a train or because it is airline, so obviously we don't have any other options, but we can't expect like all the other related fields of that app should also be visible. So the main task is like, okay, booking the app. So the main screen should have a to, from and the dates, those kind of things. But the other screens could have the additional information. You can't expect the user to first register, first complete the complete form, and then come to the other screen like, okay, now you can book the ticket. So this kind of interaction and experience will never be good for the users. So that is also very much important. Some information we can show right away, some information needs to be shown on click of something. So probably we have a menu, we have option of menu in most of the mobile devices. So we can actually use them, and the less common interfaces or less common things could actually be put there. Then feedback, as I told earlier, so if user is doing something, they should be given feedback. They should be told what exactly went wrong or what exactly is there. If something is getting processed, they should be told like, okay, things are in progress, your work is in progress, and an instant feedback should be given even if an error occurs from their side. Consistency. So just because we have to design a mobile app and the screen size is small, we cannot actually make the design cluttered, like having one button somewhere else and the other button somewhere else, and the navigation is having different things. So we have to make the design consistent the way we do for a website or a web app. Because when the design is consistent, so automatically the user will not have to rethink on the usage or how to use the application, because learnability and memorability again comes when the consistency is there. So obviously these things user will automatically grasp. So they don't have to, spend a lot of time in understanding what exactly is the features or what exactly is the way I have to use this app. And user input. Some information like the form inputs and all which we have, if we can pre-populate it by default, that would actually help us a lot, help the user also a lot. So example, let's say we have to, after the ticket booking, the user have to actually register. So obviously what happens is, all the information of the user, like the first name, last name, address, and all these details are with the app provider or the service provider. So we can actually pre-populate those information rather than asking the user to retype that, because if a person is using a airline app for ticket booking, so obviously they might have registered initially or later on, or however, if that happens first time, so from the second time, so they should not be asked again to re-enter their name and all. That information should be stored somewhere, and then the user should, the information should be pre-populated. So if the user actually have to make some changes in that, they can do it. But initially, if this information is pre-populated, it will help a lot. Then customization, obviously customization is key these days. People want to see the app the way they like. They would like to customize the color. They might like to, customize the language settings. A lot of things are there. So we should have the option of customization. So this is very important for keeping our users with us. And satisfaction. So obviously, if all these things are taken care of, we'll have a very satisfied set of users, and the mobile apps which we developed will be used by many people, and word of mouth, like, oh, this app is really great, it has a great user experience, you should try it. So it actually works as a marketing as well. Next is some guidelines. As we saw some the challenges and all, so based on that, now I'll talk about some of the guidelines which we have for usability. Address user requirement as quickly as possible. So this is very important. Like what exactly are they expecting when they are coming to your app? As I told you, a recipe app. So obviously when the user is coming to the recipe app, so they might be looking for some information, like probably they'll be looking for some new recipes. So I may want to cook something new for my family, so I might be looking for that app. So in that context, the information what they require is like, okay, I should be able to search, because a lot of recipes will be there, so probably I should be able to search for that and get the information. So search is the context here for that mobile app. So search should be given the priority. Similarly, make user input simpler. This is also important, because what happens is basically filling something or typing something in a mobile, especially with the iPhone, it's really very difficult because we have this virtual keyboard. So typing something, when I try to type something, if I try to type A, probably S is also clicked. So a lot of problem happens. So it is very annoying to type something with the mobile device. So that's the reason, if the inputs are simpler, that will help us. Third is indicate clearly what is selected. So suppose a button is selected by the user, so they should be able to see, okay, this is the active button, this button has been selected. So if that is not selected, or if that does not happen, so the user will get confused whether the button has been really clicked or not. Because in a web context, we can actually have a hover. On hover, we can see a hand signal or something. But for a mobile, that is not the case. If we click on something, it will not have a hover or something. It simply clicks. So we should have an indication like this particular button has been clicked, or some action has been done. As I told earlier, like what do you call it? The agreements or privacy policies. These kind of things are really not required for a mobile device. So these kind of stuff should be kept out of the app. Make sure the basic controls are always available. If I am in the main page and I browse to the second page, if I again have to come back to the home page, there should be an interaction of going back. Not all the mobile devices will have a back button. So we have to have that interface. Like if again I have to go back to the home screen, or if I have to go back to the last screen or something, we should have these kind of basic controls available always. Then again, cater for easy and intuitive interaction. So when the user sees the application, they should understand, like, okay, if I click on something like the Chase application, they have find ATM. So okay, I don't have to scratch my head thinking where I'll find this information. I know if I log in, I go to the banking thing. If I want to contact the banking people, I can contact them. If I want to go to the ATM, I can simply click on the ATM, find ATM, and then I can go. So this is very intuitive kind of interaction which is required in the mobile app. Then consistency. Consistency is very much important when you are designing for a mobile app. Do not make the mobile application a technology limited version of your desktop application. Just because we want to go mobile does not mean we can actually become totally a mini desktop version of an app. So that is very much important. And offer instantaneous informative feedback. So obviously information is very much required, feedback is very much required. The context is very limited for a mobile, so these things has to be taken care of. Then 80-20 rule is 20% of the functionality should be usable by 80% of the users. So they should be able to use the application easily. So if we follow this rule, our application is really usable. Then we have some best practices. Do not blindly mimic design intended to run on desktop devices. Present the minimum number of options possible on any screen. Minimize screen density, but don't spread content interaction across so many screens that user gets lost. I have seen some apps, so the basic banking apps only, where what happens, I click on the transaction search, and then when I basically go to a screen, I have a list of transactions available, and then I have some paginations available to go to the next screen, and some 4-5 screens are there. After that, if I again have to come back to the home screen, I have to again slide back so many screens and then come. So they don't have option of coming back to the main screen. So these kind of things irritate the user, because we don't have. If pagination is there should be some option of going to the main home first page or the last page if I'm in some between 6th or 7th page. So these kind of things are required. And design the UI to behave similarly to other applications on the devices with which users are familiar. So as I mean what basically happens is iPhone have a different interaction model, iPhone have a different UI theme and the way the UI interacts. Android have a different, BlackBerry have a different, even the look and feel, the behavior, everything is different for these devices. So we can't expect, having iPhone experience in BlackBerry or BlackBerry experience in iPhone. So this is very much important. And if designing for multiple devices, we have to follow the design conventions for each devices. Whatever design convention is there, the icon designing convention, the form designing convention, the text convention, the images convention, visual designing conventions. We have a lot of conventions available for Android, BlackBerry. Every devices have their own. Every platform have their own conventions. So we have to take care of that when we are designing for that particular platform. Avoid the pitfall of trying to make the application behave the same across all platforms. So let's say someone wants to go mobile in all the platforms. They say like, I want to go mobile in Android, iPhone, BlackBerry, Windows Mobile. So we cannot have the same design to work in all the applications because all the interactions are different, all the behavior is different. Some may be using a trackball to, if it is a BlackBerry, some users will be using a trackball device, some will be using the touch screen, some will be using some others. So interaction is also different, and obviously all the devices, as I told, have their own interaction model and the way the UI interface looks. So if I have to design, I can't say like, okay, I just designed one single visual design and just copy paste the same thing for all the platforms. So that is not correct. It might work, but that is not the correct way of designing for mobile devices. And then make sure forms are easy to use and navigation between fields is predictable. So form is very much important because normally also users will never like to fill any form. If I'm given a registration form to fill, I would think 2 times, do I need to register to this app? So especially in a desktop device, desktop or a laptop, I don't prefer using the forms or filling the forms. So when it comes to the mobile, users become very much choosy. So we have to have this information only when it is necessary. Then provide clear methods for the user to recover from errors. Broken links and other problems, particularly if the device does not have a simple back button. So some devices have back buttons. Most of the Android devices have a back button available, but not all. So we have to have an option of, if some broken link is there and if I have to go back to the home page. So the link should have the home page option like, okay, something went wrong and probably this page is not available. You could actually go to the home page by clicking or something like that. Some information or some feedback should be given. Then avoid complex interaction patterns that require close user attention for a long time. Complex things users will never understand and they will never prefer doing it on a mobile context. And the less text input, the better. Exploit the unique capabilities of each device. Each device has GPS, accelerometer, screen size, inputs, a lot of things are there. All of them have their own way of showing that. So if we use those capabilities, we can actually increase the user experience of the devices. Use highly structured workflows and wizards for infrequent tasks. So some tasks where we think, let's say setting or something. So these kind of tasks we can actually put in a proper wizard and then do it. So users will have a proper experience and they won't get lost in between the interaction. And then provide clear feedback on progress and the status of the task completion. As mentioned earlier, suppose I'm booking a ticket. And once my information is loaded, I've loaded all the information and my to and from information is also filled in. I've done everything. And now when I click on book ticket, so it will take some time for the application to interact with the backend and then complete the whole task and then get me the information like, okay, your tickets are booked. So that period, if we have some information or some feedback like processing or 80% complete, 90% complete, so user will also feel satisfied like, okay, something is happening rather than just getting lost like, is my application working, something went wrong, what is it? So this is very much important. And use high contrast text colors and select typeface for maximum readability. Some applications I've used, they will use very bad contrast. They don't have, suppose black and white is the best contrast, we can't have always a white application. So obviously we have to use multiple colors based on the branding of the app or the application which we are making. So we also have to take care, like when we are designing something for the mobile, so the contrast is very much important, because as I mentioned in one of the contexts, maybe the user is somewhere in dark and he have to use this application. So obviously it has a very bad contrast, so he will not be able to use it properly, and it will affect his eyes. So these kind of things should also be taken care of in designing for a mobile. Next is carefully and consistently use colors throughout the design. So I have an app, let's say Scottrade app. So the same Scottrade have purple and some yellowish and all, which we have. So if we have to design the same thing for a mobile, so we can't think like just because Scottrade is having 6 different shades of purple and 2 different shades of yellow and some white, so I'll be using the same color combinations in the mobile app. So that will not work, and it will look really horrible. So we have to use very limited colors. We have to also take care of the branding of the company, and then select the primary colors and limited colors and then design it, keeping in mind the contrast also. And next is use simple navigation structures that focus on one specific task at a time. So navigation, if I click on something, I'm searching for a recipe. I search the recipe, I got the recipe. So when I click on the recipe, list of recipes will be there. I click on one of them, I go to the next screen, which is having the details about the recipe, like, okay, this is the recipe, the cooking time is so and so, and duration is this, and these are the ingredients. So the navigation is simple. I know like what is the flow and how to take it forward. So that is also very much important when designing for a mobile. So now I'm open to take any questions which you have. Okay. I have some questions coming in. So let me just take it one by one. So the first question is, I am in Android development practically. I have a problem on UI designing for various resolutions. How to design interface for various resolutions? So this came from Jelani Muhammad. Okay, so when you have to design something for different resolutions, so basically, you know, in Android we have different platforms available. So what I do is, when I'm designing something for multiple resolution, is I take the smallest resolution in mind. So let's say for the Android 320 by 480 is the smallest resolution, and the largest is the tablet devices. So obviously we cannot have the same interface which we have for the 320 by 480 to be there for the tablet. But in Android only we can have some 3-4 different resolutions. So I take the smallest resolution in mind, and then I design my visual designs for that. So if it is working properly in that small resolution, so it will also work for the other resolutions which I have. So does that answer your question, Jalani? Okay. The next question came from Kaushal. Can we use HTML5 which can stretch the layout with all the screen resolution? So see, we have mobile applications basically are of 2 types. So one is the rich clients and the other are the thin clients. So rich clients are the native mobile apps, and thin clients are basically the web app, the you know, the mobile web apps, the browser-based apps which we have. So HTML5 we cannot use for the rich clients. Basically for thin clients we can use it, and yes, we can make sure like it fits all the resolutions. Then Swapnil says Symbian is only for Nokia phone or any other also. So So basically, I'm not aware of any other devices using Symbian. Probably other devices might also be using Symbian, like Motorola or something. But as far as my knowledge goes, most of the devices which uses Symbian operating system is Nokia. Next is what type of operating system is used in BlackBerry. So BlackBerry itself has the RIM operating system which they uses, and BlackBerry tablet again have the tablet BlackBerry operating system. So BlackBerry itself is the operating system which they uses. Okay. Next is, for multiple Android devices, do we need to integrate images of different dimensions so that it calls for the relevant images when you access a particular application from that? Example, Sony Xperia image size gets called from the code ID from the same place. Okay. So basically, when we have to design something for multiple dimensions, so in Android, so how we do is we definitely have to have different dimension images. So yes, we need it. And obviously when calling from the backend, so we know like, okay, this is for the Xperia or some Galaxy or whatever. So based on that, we can actually integrate. But we definitely need to have different size images, because the challenges with using an image is, suppose I'm using a background image for 320 by 480. So the other dimension could be 480 by 600. So I cannot use the 320 by 480 dimension image for that, because when I do that, it might work, but the image might look pixelated, and the visual design might not look proper. So obviously we need to have different dimensions for different. So we know like, okay, for the Android devices, we know like there are 4 or 5 different type of dimensions available. So we can actually use them, and we can create only those images, 4 or 5 set of images, and use it based on the type of devices which will be calling it. Okay, is there, this came from Vinod Kumar Raju. Is there any better way to design for several dimensions with good resolution? I'm currently designing several dimensions for J2ME. So see, when I'm designing for several dimensions, what I do is I create different images. So basically, the layout, as I told, the 320 by 480 is the basically most used dimension. So if I have to design something even for the Nokia with 240 by 320 or something, so I'll first take care of that small resolution and then design. And when I have to take care of the resolution, like obviously there are so many different resolutions available, and when I have to take care of all those resolutions, so I prefer making different dimension images for different resolutions and then working on it. Okay, next came from Srinivas. Can we know how we are going to address the diversity as a developer with optimum user experience? So see, what happens is when you talk about diversity, so I assume you're talking about how the application will be used by various users. So the users can be from globally, or the users can be to a particular sector or segment. So I assume when you say diversity, it is more to do with the global users. So when we are designing something for the global users, and we have to take care of the user experience, so a lot of things are involved in that. First, we have to understand the capabilities of each and every type of users which we are targeting. So, and obviously it depends on the kind of app we are using. So let's say we have to design something for a social networking. So social networking is something which is used by most of the people irrespective of the age, ability and situation. So when we have to design something for that, so we need to understand how the users will be using it. So age group matters a lot. Some people will be using only to publish, like these are my updates. Some people will be publishing their photographs. Some may be power user, they want to do something extra with that app. So a lot of things are there. So when I have to design, I have to see the capabilities of each and every type of users and what they can use, what kind of users will be actually using our app. So when we know that thing, and when we know the end users of our app, like like Facebook is used across the globe. So they know like, okay, Facebook is there, which can be used by anyone, any age, and any location. So that is the diversity which you're talking about. So when we have to design for that thing, so obviously you can't expect a 65-year-old person to be an expert the way probably 18 or 20 years a teenager will be using an app. So this matters a lot. So we have to do a lot of groundwork, lot of research should be there, and then lot of other steps are involved as a part of user experience which we have to take care of. We have to create the personas. We have to see the use cases, like how and what type of use cases will be there for this thing. So based on that, we actually create the complete thing. So we'll create the information architecture, we'll create the other flows, and then based on the flows, we'll create the designs. And then basically when it comes to diversified users, we actually try to get some feedback from them. So we ask them the questionnaires and try to understand how actually they'll be using an application, or what are their choices. So these things help a lot when we have to work for a diversified user. Then next question comes from Amit Jain. In mobile UI design context, could you please explain with a few examples how learnability can impact for the regular expert users? Also, any learnability measures to be taken care of while designing for the regular users? See, there's nothing like regular user or normal users or expert users, because users tend to make a lot of mistakes. So when we have to design something, so we have to assume like, okay, everyone should be able to use it. So when it comes to learnability, so basically, let me give an example for this thing. Okay, so let's say a user have to book some tickets using Alaska Airlines. Okay, so the basic step, the first few steps are really very easy for them. Like, okay, I log into the app, and then it will show me the to and from, like from where to where I have to go, and number of people, how many people are traveling, number of infants and number of adults. These are some basic things. So I mean, this has become a norm. So if you go to any application, any airline booking or ticket booking application, even if it is in a desktop or a website, so this has become a norm. Like people know like, yeah, I have to book a ticket, so this app will ask me for the to and from, it will ask me from the date, it will ask me from the the number of adults and the thing. So this actually is learnability. So the user, the same thing. So when the user has gone to, I'm talking about the Alaska Airlines. So let's say like the user goes to Singapore Airlines, and now he wants to book the ticket. So he expects the same kind of interaction. Like if I go to the Singapore Airlines, so I should be asked for these kind of things only. So let's say if I go to the Singapore Airlines, and they are having a totally different interaction, and they don't have a similar kind of thing like to or from or something, and something different. So the user gets confused because their level of understanding for an app is like, if I go to this app, this is what should happen, right? So here what is happening is like this has become a norm. Like when I'm booking a ticket, these are few sets of information which they'll be asking me. So this is basically the learnability. So with the same expectation, the user will be actually using the other app also. But if that app is not up to their expectation, they might get confused, and it will take some time for them to actually get used to that app and work on it. So I hope that answers your question. And second thing is the same. Amit Jain, you asked another question, which is, can heuristic guidelines be directly applicable to mobile app designing or need context specific? Taking addition consideration of new principles. If there are any, where can I find these guidelines? Okay. So yeah, heuristic guidelines definitely for see, when we are designing something for the users. So obviously heuristic evaluation, heuristic guidelines are common, because when users come into picture, so these things are there. And basically heuristic is done to understand how usable your app is, what are the problems, and based on that you want to improve your app. So I have some guidelines available which I'll share. Just a minute. So after this conference, I'll share the guidelines. And another thing which you mentioned is need context-specific picking, addition, and consideration of new principles. So see, some principles which we are talking about, because in the mobile context also, is because users are involved here. So, adding new principles and all, I don't know. But as I mentioned, heuristics is very much required here. I'll share these with you. Okay. So what are the established design conventions that came from Dheeraj? Yeah. So Dheeraj, basically, for design, a lot of conventions are there. And basically, when we talk about the mobile design itself, we have a lot of conventions available. So the design conventions, basically, for iPhone, let's say, we have the dimension, the height and width of the buttons, and everything is there. So for each and every element which we have for the UI for a mobile is having a convention and how it should be used, and the height and width, the color, the dimension, the gradient and all. We have for Android, we have for BlackBerry, we have for iPhone, we have for all those things. I don't have it handy right now, but what I'll do is I'll share it to you in a couple of minutes. There are some conventions which I'll send it to you. And then Shubhangi, hi, I am an Android developer. What care should be taken when designing for multiple screens? So see, as I mentioned earlier also, when the screen size is different, so the biggest challenge with a developer is how to handle because see, basically the functionality thing will work in any device, any platform. But the only thing is when you have to design something for the multiple screens, at times the images get scattered and a lot of padding issue comes in. I've seen a lot of issues coming in because I've personally designed a lot of mobile applications as well. So, the challenges are there, a lot of challenges are there. So when we have to design for multiple screens, the best thing is to have those images, because you can't, let's say you are creating a button using the IDE which we have, you have the drag and drop components. Let's say you're using the iPhone SDK, and in the iPhone thing you have the drag and drop components, and for the buttons you are using the same thing. You're just dragging those buttons and making it. It might work for iPhone, but it might not work for the iPad. Or let's say you're making it for the earlier versions of iPhone, and now you have to make it for the latest version. So obviously, because the resolutions are different, the button, the size will be same, so it will not look good. So in these type of scenarios, when I have to design something for the now, because we're talking about the Android context, so for the Android, let me tell you. So when we have to design something for the Android, what I do is, because resolutions are different, lot of resolutions are there. So based on that, I actually design like, okay, the button for the 320 by 480 should be so and so, and for a higher resolution it should be so and so. So I know that. So based on that, I design the images and buttons. Everything in the mobile application is images, which I design, and then we actually implement that. And the same thing with the title bar which we have. For the title bar also we do the same thing. we create a specific height and width as specified in the Android conventions, like, okay, this is how the height should be, this much height, this much width and all. So based on that, we actually create the title bars, tag menus, menu bar, whatever, everything we do it that way. Okay, Anirudh asks, can you discuss a bit about color theory in depth, how to use them for bringing out the most important features? So Anirudh, you know what happens is when we are designing something, so color is very much important. So color talks a lot about what we do and how we do, and it also talks about our personality and all. So you know, and there are some color conventions. So let's talk about red. So if we see red somewhere, so obviously, I mean, in Indian context, what happens is we feel like red is something for stop or danger or something. So let's suppose I'm designing a normal app, any app. It could be a web app or a desktop or any app or a mobile app. So, you know, when we have some error message or some validation thing coming up, like, okay, I have entered my username, but my password is wrong. So what happens is, below it will give me like, your password is wrong, please check your password, or invalid credential or something like that will come. But the color of that will be, most of the time it will be red. So, you know, in user's mind, there's a mindset like, okay, red is for something wrong, went wrong or something. So, so what will happen is, you can't expect like the same thing because I mean, I can't do the same thing for success. If something went success, like, okay, you were successfully able to complete this task, so if it is in red, the users get confused. So this is very much important. The color is very much important when you are designing something. So color talks a lot, and it actually acts a lot in the application also. So I can't complete the complete theory here because lot of things are there, lot of other, I mean, color itself has a lot of things to talk about. So I can just tell you few things as I told you. And then Kapil, my question is, which one is better, app versus WAP, and why? Okay, so Kapil, honestly, I don't know much about the WAP thing because most of the time I use the app. So I can't answer your question here, like which one is better. Okay, have you made some app for different devices again? Okay, this is from Rahul Dev. How you made the same app for different devices platform? If yes, what differences did you come across, and how did you go about the project? Okay, so Rahul, I actually faced this problem, and definitely I've designed a lot of apps. So let me give you an example. I designed the Toyota shopping tool app, so which basically, you know, is used by multiple users to search for some vehicles, and then based on the vehicle, they'll see some colors, and they will see some models. They can compare the models, and then, you know, based on that, they can actually find the dealer and take it forward. So this app was designed for iPhone, Android, BlackBerry, and then it was also designed for the tablet devices. Okay, so because if you see in the iPhone, you don't have any button at all. Everything is touch. If you see the Android devices, some devices do have keyboard. So if you see some earlier versions of Android which we had, so the T1, the Google phones and all, so they also have trackballs available, and they also have some keyboards available. Plus they also have a back button available. The third thing is BlackBerry. So some of the BlackBerry, the earlier versions of BlackBerry, they have the back buttons, they have the trackball, they have keyboard, everything is available. Wherein the same thing is not available for the iPhone. So now if I have to design something, so let's say when I designed this app, there were some areas where the user inputs were required. So when I have to input something for the touch screen, so the keyboard will pop up. The keyboard will pop up and I can input the information, whatever information I need, I can fill that. But when I have to do the same thing for when I'm having this information. The keyboard thing is there. Let's say the Android devices and BlackBerry devices, which is having the keyboard and the other the trackballs and all. So in that case, what happens is I can't expect, like, because I have given the same interaction, the virtual keyboard is coming up in iPhone, so it should also come for Android and BlackBerry because they have the keyboard. So in that case, we face some challenges here because we can't do the same designing, we can't have the same interaction in all the three devices. So what we did is we did some homework and decided, like, okay, if these are the devices, then it should show the keyboard, otherwise it should not show. So this is how we did it programmatically, and then we controlled it. The same thing with other controls also. So, I can play, I can drag. So in an iPhone, you can get a very good experience because you have a lot of interactions which is done through the hands. I can play, I can drag, I can expand through the hands and all. That is not possible in earlier versions of BlackBerry. And when we have to design something for that, and then we have to zoom, something. So how will we do that? I can zoom in an iPhone very easily, but the same thing cannot be done in an Android or a BlackBerry because it should have some options. So, you should have some button or something. When I click on that, I should be able to take it forward, and it should zoom, and it should drag, it should rotate, whatever. So when we are designing for multiple platforms, so we have to also understand, like, not everyone will be having the touch phone, and there may be some users who will be using the QWERTY keyboard, or some may be having the normal keyboard. So we also have to design keeping in mind that. So in that case, what will happen is when I'm designing something with the 360-degree view, if I have to rotate, zoom, change the color and all, so there should be some option of some buttons or something for those kind of users who don't have the touch screen to click on that and continue. So these are some challenges which I faced for this app, and definitely we launched it, and you can go and search for it. It is Toyota Shopping Tool. And okay, this is from Shantanu. Till now, is there any way by which we can get cross-platform compatibility for most OS, that is BlackBerry and Nokia? So Shantanu, actually for the use, except for the use of HTML5. So see, when you are talking about rich clients, when you are designing a native app, and you want the consistency in the cross-platform, so there are, I'm not aware of any other, but since I work with Pony Solutions, we used to have a IDE called Pony Studio, so wherein we used to, drag and drop all the components and then create the UI, and we used to decide, like, these are the dimensions, and we used to, there were multiple dimensions available. We used to drag and drop and design the interface. Once the interface was done, then what we used to do is publish it. So while publishing, we used to get the option of, you publish it for iPhone, Android, BlackBerry, and iPad, and all the devices. And when we used to do that and publish, it used to publish on all the platforms, and really very comfortable. So I'm not aware of any other IDs, but yeah, we have Pony Studio available. Okay, and then we have Harshvardhan Thakur. How is making your application behave same across all the platform of pitfall? Can you explain with a few examples? So the same kind of question is coming. This is the same question which I answered earlier also. When I have to design something for multiple platforms, so what are the pitfalls? So obviously the pitfalls are the same. First of all, when you are designing for multiple platforms, the operating system are different, and the way the operating system behaves is different. Not all the operating system behaves the same way. The interaction is different, and challenges are there. Some operating systems have additional features which the other might not be giving. So I have to keep in mind each and everything when I'm designing for multiple platforms. So like iPhone is giving a lot of additional features, iOS is giving a lot of features which Android might not be having, BlackBerry will not be having at all. So let's say, like, I have to create a mobile video conferencing app. So for the video conferencing app, some of the BlackBerry devices, they don't have any videos. In some of the iPhone apps, what happens, Android app is, we don't have two-way cameras. We have just one-way camera. Wherein for iPhone we have, and for some tablet devices we have. So when we are creating for multiple devices, so these are few things, right? So when I have to design for these many different use cases and devices, so we should have the interaction in such a way like it shouldn't work in one, and it should work in one and not in other. So that again is very important. So these are some pitfalls which I have to take care of when I'm designing for multiple. Okay. So G. Karthikeyan, your question is, which is a good practice for designing UI via XML or through code? So I normally design my code using the basic. If I'm doing a mobile web, I basically prefer using it the HTML and JavaScript way rather than going through XML. So I'm not really sure which one is good, which one is not, but it depends on the personal practices, like which one you prefer doing. And then Jelani, working for multiple resolution UI designing involves IDPI, MDPI, HDPI, as you told. MDPI 320 by 480 is preferable. I have a problem on my app when users use their accelerometer to change the orientation. How to redraw my UI interfaces on this case? What should be the technique behind this? For example, standard calculation. So Jelani, honestly, I am a designer. I am not a developer. I basically just design the interface. So I won't be able to answer the programmatic way of solving this issue for you. So Mohammed, what is the major difference between mobile UI design and computer UI? Does the major difference lies on the content or information architecture? So Mohammed, it actually depends on both. It is not like in one it depends on the other, because first of all, see, as I told in the earlier in presentation, so when you're designing for a mobile, right, the challenge is your screen size, the challenge is your context, the type of use, the location of use, or any application or website using a computer. So I know there are limited set of things. I'm at my home or I'm at my office. So I know like I can have a wireless or I'll have a wired connection. Wherein in the case of UI, mobile, what happens is I might be using a mobile application in a public place, or I might be using it in my restroom or tram or bus or train or something. So the major thing is like obviously first challenge will be internet. There may not be a consistent internet connection, and another thing might be a lot of noise will be there and lot of disturbance will be there. So if you're if your mobile app requires a lot of concentration from your side, so again it is a problem. The second thing is when you talk about the information architecture or the overall content. So what happens? Suppose, let's say I have let me give an example of a normal company. I'm a company who actually gives services, and I have some products available. So I want to, showcase the same thing in the mobile application. So let's say my website is of 50 or 60 pages, and I have different interactions in my all the screens. I have a lot of things like, okay, this is my services, this is about me, this is about my company, and the company structure and company business history and testimonials and blah 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 and all these things. We have a lot of things available there, right? So now that I have so many things available, I cannot simply mock the same thing for a mobile device, because none of the users will be actually reading so many content in the mobile device. So here what will happen is the users will get irritated. They would prefer reading such kind of information only in a website rather than coming to the mobile. So here the difference is there. So if someone have to design the similar kind of thing for the mobile, so they have to change their information architecture a little, and they have to make it in such a way like they are able to spread the news, they are able to tell what exactly they are doing to the users in a less annoying way. So this is the major challenge available. I mean, this is the basic thing which is there. And obviously, you cannot have everything, because see, you cannot have the same layout. Like in the website, you can have the drop downs, you can have the tab bars and not. In the mobile context, a lot of things may not work. The drop down may not look good in the mobile context. So you have to look for a different UI in that case. So I have about us or about company, and in about company I have 10 different tabs available, or 10 different things like about the company, about the investors, about blah blah blah. I have 6 or 7 things, let's say. The same thing you cannot copy in the mobile context also, right? So you have to modify your information architecture also based on your mobile context. So the UI design will be totally different for your mobile. And then Saurabh, your question is Saurabh Gupta. Does Android UI developer should take care of screen type of target device to active rich UI? Many screen types available in Android mobile. So see, Saurabh, what happens is you can't assume things here. So as you mentioned, like Android UI developer should take care of screen type of target device to create the rich UI. DFT mode and many screen types are available in Android mobile. So see, what happens is when you have to design something. So I mean, nowadays Android is having many. I don't even remember, but there can be 50 or 60 different type of Android devices available in the market now. So if you have to design something for a specific target device, it becomes pretty difficult. So you have to take the most common kind of things with the resolutions in mind. You can't target each and every devices. You can't say like, okay, I have to design it for HTC also, HTC Smart also, and blah blah. So in that case, what happens is when you are designing something, you just have to understand the resolution. Like, okay, in the Android devices, I have 4 or 5 different type of resolutions available. One is 320 by 480. The other is like, let's say 480 by 600 and something like that. So I know like these are the 3 or 4 different type of resolutions most of the devices will be having. So based on that, if you design something, your UI will be really rich in all the devices. So you don't have to actually take care of each and every target device, because you don't know what device your user will be using. I might be using old Google phone, or someone might be using a very new, the Samsung Galaxy which is launched. So you never know the target audience. So you have to, I mean, without any assumptions, we have to design for each and every one. And then Satish, Android apps have been heavily criticized in the past due to poor user experience. One of the reasons why this happened is lack of solid and consistent UI patterns. Okay. So, Satish, basically the problem here is Android have lot of good UI features, lot of good things are there which most of the users don't know. The main thing is why it is being criticized is because if you compare it with the iPhone UI, iPhone interface, definitely it has a lot of pitfalls. So the kind of the transition which happens in the iPhone, if I click on something, the transition, the animation, and these kind of things are really very rich in iPhone, whereas in Android, the earlier versions of Android, the animations are not that smooth, and the transition is not really cool. So that is some of the reasons why it has been criticized. It's not because of the user experience, because if you see the Android mobile experience, it's much more better than the iPhone, because iPhone just have the touch screen, and if you're lost somewhere, if you just have to go back to your home page also, you don't have any options. I mean, you just have to get out of the app and then go to your home page in the iPhone. Wherein when it comes to the Android devices, we have so many options available. You can actually go back and you have a home button in the device itself. When you click on that, you can go to the home button. And again, if you click your app, you will be in your app. You're not lost from your app. So the overall experience in the Android is much better. This was your question is there any Eclipse-based plugin which makes UI designing easy? Okay. See, I'm not aware of any Eclipse clubbed with Eclipse and we can design, but again we don't have that rich experience here. We don't have so many drag and drop components. Very limited components are available. The Eclipse based plugin which I used is the Kony Solutions, which I told. This is the plugin which I have used. And this is based on the top of Eclipse. They have created some plugins and they have actually clubbed it and they have created this IDE which is really rich and great for creating multi-platform devices. But I'm not very much sure if this is a free way because I think Kony is selling it now. Okay, and then Abhi Abraham, let's say in Android, if I want to create a custom UI layout for an app, what graphic tools are available for designing the UI? Okay, let's say in Android, if I want to create a custom UI layout for an app. So I'm not able to understand your question when you're talking about the UI layout here. So are you talking about the components for the mobile app, or are you talking, because when you're talking about graphic tools here, so see, basically what happens is I create the visual design using the Photoshop, and then I create these components, the buttons, the arrows, the title bar, and whatever background, whatever is required, I create those things as an image and give it to the developer. So when you say like custom UI layout for an app, so do you mean like some drag and drop components which I can customize, something like Adobe Flex or something which you're talking about? I'm not really sure what exactly is the question, but this is what I'm assuming. So can you be a little more clear on this? Okay. The next question is mobile web standard. This is again from Jelani. Mobile web standards follow less than 20 KB page size. In this size factor, which is the best, either we can design mobile standard custom web page or follow any mobile framework. If best as you choose, what are the advantages? Please explain. So see, Jelani, depends on your requirement first of all. The screen size is always very important here. So, you know what happens is when you are using your, and obviously for the jQuery mobile and PhoneGap which you are talking about, these are some frameworks which will create your mobile web applications, but it will not create your rich application. So, the context itself changes here. So now what happens is, see, basically when you talk about the screen size and all, so as I told you, we have two types of application. One is the rich client and the second is the thin client. So rich clients are the basic devices which you have to download, to your mobile devices from the respective market. So from for iPhone, let's say you have to download it from the iPhone Apple market. For Android, you download from the Android market, and for BlackBerry the same way. So these are the downloaded applications, whereas the screen size is very much important. And when you say this less than 20 KB thing, this is required for these kind of applications. But when it comes to applications which run on your browser, so it's more like, you know, you have a device and a browser and you are actually browsing it. So in those type of scenarios, the less than 20 KB thing is not required because you're not downloading something and it is not eating up your memory or your device's memory. So here what happens is, because you're browsing it in the browser, so it will be a normal thing, like, okay, I click on something, it goes to the next page and so on. So here the framework thing doesn't really matter, the standard custom page or framework, because jQuery mobile or PhoneGap cannot be used for rich client development. So these platforms or these programming things you have for thin clients. So that is the browser base. So that is the reason these two things are two different and separate areas. Okay. So I think that's the only questions I have. Is there any other question coming up?
Uh, yeah, we have answered most of the questions. We'll wait for a minute and see if there are any more questions.
Okay. Okay, one question came from Abhi. Like we see in Facebook, Twitter, they are not made using native Android UI buttons, text boxes, solid color background. Which software can be used to create a refreshing UI like Facebook? Okay, so see what happens is we have the capability, Abhi, we have this capability of, the native buttons, text boxes and all, but we also have the freedom of customizing those things. So it's not like just because we have some norms, so we cannot customize the UI. We can customize, but we also have to make sure like the basic features which they provide, the basic native things, like when I click on menu in an Android device, so the menu bar pops up with 5 different tabs available. So that you cannot change to the iPhone like menu bar because they both have the different way of interaction. So these things you have to take care of. But when you're talking about the native the buttons, the backgrounds which the Facebook and Twitter uses, so that can be customized. So I mean, you don't require any such software for that. You can do it in your own native application. Suppose you're doing for Android, so in the Android only, when you have this button, the button will have the option of customization. You can do that. If you don't want to use the buttons provided by Android, you can actually create your own buttons and put it as an image, and for those image you can give some click events and make it work. Okay, this is from Sriram. I'm developing a mobile-based web app. Can I know what kind of CSS JavaScript be available in mobile browsers? Okay, I'm developing mobile app. I want to test in various devices. Can you tell where I can get the device simulators? Okay, so see Sriram, just a minute Sriram. So see, basically what happens is when you are developing something for the mobile thing, so what happens is you have multiple this thing. The jQuery is there, jQuery UI is there, and then PhoneGap is available. So, so what exactly can I know? What kind of CSS JavaScript be available? So see, basically HTML5 CSS3 works on the mobile app. So when you're designing something, and JavaScript basically you can use the basic JavaScript for the jQuery for this thing. If you want to add some animations to your mobile-based application, you can use the JavaScript or the jQuery, whatever. So we already have some frameworks available. There are around 50 frameworks available. I don't know if you're available. Aware of that thing. We have Sencha available. We have PhoneGap. We have jQuery Mobile. We have jQuery Touch. jQuery Touch is there, and a lot of more frameworks are available. So you don't have to actually create your own basic HTML CSS thing. You can use these frameworks, make use of these frameworks, which is already having these basic components for the mobile, like the buttons, the tab bars, the title bar, the menu bar, and these things are available. So you can actually make use of these frameworks and create an application. And when you're talking about testing this thing, for the various devices, so most of the simulators you get online. You can search for online simulators for whatever devices you are targeting. So suppose you want to search for iPhone and Android and all, you can actually get the simulators online for these things, the browser-based simulators where you can actually test your devices, your application, sorry. Okay. This is from Sudhakar. Hi, this is Sudhakar. I would like to know how to show huge data in stable mobile phone. Do you mean tablet? Like number of items, name, recipe, flavor, ingredients, how to do, etc. Okay. Huge data in tablet mobile phone. Number of items, name, recipe, and all. So see, Sudhakar, actually verbally it's very difficult to tell these kind of things because few things can be defined through a visual design. So, but still, if you are asking something like this, when, like how to show the huge data and all. So let's say you have lot of big data and the same thing like okay, number of items, names, recipes, flavors, everything. So if you put everything in the main one page only, it looks very annoying and a lot of scrolling is required for the user. So in that case, the best option would be to have some tabs kind of thing. So in the tablet devices, you create some tabs. The tab will have, one of the tab will have recipe, which will have the list of recipes. The second could have the flavor. The third will have ingredients. So so suppose let's say the person is looking for one recipe, which is having, for that he want to know the basic things like okay, what is the cooking time, the recipe name and all. So all these things will come as a common, the image and these basic things will come in the main page, and below you will have some tabs. So the first tab will have the details about the recipe like how to cook. The second will have the ingredients which is required. The third thing will have some other information which is required for this thing, or probably a video or something, right? So if the user wants to know like, okay, if I have to create this recipe, if I have to cook this recipe, so what are the ingredients required? So I can click on that and actually search for the details. Now I want to see the complete recipe, the details like how to cook and all these things, I can click on that tab. So this will actually enhance the user experience. Though this requires some clicking for the users, but it's always better rather than showing everything at once on a tablet device, which will confuse the user.
Yeah,
Okay.
though there are few more
So,
questions
is there
still
any
unanswered, but we can take them offline
uh-huh.
because we are running out of time. So we can conclude the session now.
Okay, so shall I tell that or you will tell that?
Yeah, we will conclude the session from our end.
Okay, fine.
Thanks, Ms. Shamla, for your informative session on mobile UI and usability guide. It was indeed an enlightening session. I would also like to thank the participants for their support in making this webinar a huge success. The recording of this webinar will be available on techgeek.com by tomorrow. The next session in Usability UI series is happening on Tuesday, 21st Feb at 3 p.m. Topic for the webinar is Experience Design Challenges and What Does It Mean to be the New Breed of Designer? We'll be having Mr. Sudhendra Venkatesh Murthy, Head of Experience Design, Sapien Nitro India as our guest speaker. So see you all on Tuesday at 3 p.m. Have a nice day. Thank you.
मेरे को तो याद हो गया एक दो लाइन दिस इज टेक्निक्स इन देवर